my volume, and then I'm turning up everybody else's volume, and I'm switching to our screen, and I'm saying, welcome, travelers, back to the Inn of Planar Crossroads. We are here today on our normal, it's Monday for us, chat, and we are doing our Around the Hearth about monsters and creatures from the CR2 to CR4. So CR2, 3, and 4 are what's going to be covered this time. Last time, if you want to check that out, you can go to our go down in the description if you want, and we will have a link for it there. We will also have a link for the list we're using. It's from D20PF SRD, and it is the Monsters by CR. You can just Google it if you want to while you're watching or listening, but we will also have it in the description. So, first thing we need to do is get kind of an establishment of how we're running this one. Last time, we didn't get to go over all of them that we wanted to. So this time what we're going to do is we're going to do a 5-minute-ish spotlight, let people talk about ones that they want to talk about. Everybody will get 5 minutes to talk about one creature from CR2, one creature from CR3, and one creature from CR4. So everybody will get that time if they need it to highlight their favorites from those areas. And then if we have time, we will come back around and talk about all the other ones that we like to fiddle with and use. So, without further ado, we're going to start with let's start with Donald this time, because I think we started with Tommy last time. So, Donald, take it away.
Okay. The CR2 monster I chose, I generally like using outsiders, and Adam, you would probably know this monster, at least by name. You probably use a variant of this when you ran Rise of the Rune Lord. It would be the Closet monster. Oh. Yeah, so picture this scene. A goody two-shoes group of heroes enter a dungeon now to encounter a demon cult with a demon closet leading the group. And closets, they are pretty good by themselves due to their DR immunity and a good starting off monster to show players how to overcome their DR. I think Rise of the Rune Lord had a closet witch in the first book.
It did. Yep.
So closet. If you get them caster levels, they can be quite deadly. Especially, rules as written, evil casters can have closets, imp, cackle demons, and other low evil CRs, outsiders, as familiars as well. And then them as a low CR demon, they are pretty deadly by themselves, especially if you use all their powers to their full advantage. They can commune with creatures, so you can use them as the NPC like that. They have a once per day radius power called Fear, which is quite nice. Invisibility at will, so a group of these surrounds the heroes and use their poisons. That can cause quite the hassle for the heroes. Yep. And if the heroes have enough dexterity damage, they are pretty much on the ground and can't move. If they fail enough saves against the poison.
Mm-hmm. And poison DC stacked, like we talked about last time. So even if they make it that first time.
Yes. So enough failed poison saves, and they are pretty much paralyzed and can't move for the most part. And then closets, they have a unique power, change shape. So a closet could, in theory, be following the party, being a bat, a centipede, a wolf, or some other animal, informing their demon lord or their master what the heroes are. What the hero they are up to, especially if they take a bird form.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, closets, whether as the NPC or as a monster, they are quite deadly.
Oh yeah, I could definitely see a closet playing along with a kind of tricking a druid or a ranger into thinking that they're just another wild animal, and then following them, being their buddy, and secretly reporting back to their demon overlord. So yeah, an effective choice.
Yeah, true. And closets, they if a caster had one as a familiar, they generally would take the caster's soul and use it as a form of currency to get a better demonic form, just like how devils would actually claim souls, but in the abyss. And they could easily do that to a druid or some nature class, be an animal, and lead them to their death pretty much. And that could be another campaign story plot line. People disappearing, and they know animals leading them off to their death pretty much, and there could be a conflict between animals and the humanoids. It is doable with the closet, as they have all these features.
Yep. Definitely a monster that, given the right situations, can, as Tommy put it, swing over their CR. Quiet, you two!
Yep. So it's who turns next?
Alright, so let's go to Joe.
All right. Donald, he was talking about how he likes the closet, how it can like turn to animals. However, I think the skin stealer is a far more evil choice. As Tommy can attest, I really like to screw with my player characters, especially when it comes to taking the form of someone they trust, even if it's themselves. And the skin stealer is, I think, a great way to like begin that trend in a campaign. Really, the thing that makes him quite good, he's got sneak attack. He has a lot of intelligence, so you can throw class levels on him. And I'm going to probably say this a bunch of other times with everything I'm going to say, because everything I'm going to say is going to have a theme with it. But he's got 16 intelligence. He can probably outsmart most of the party on a 20-point buy. And he can steal the skin. So he can steal the skin of like an NPC they trust. They're in a town, he kills an NPC, strips their skin off of them, and now he's that NPC, or she. It's got an amazing disguise check on top of all of that, plus 26 when it's wearing the skin of someone. That's pretty much impossible to beat at a low level at a CR2. It's got so many things on top of it. Like, it's not that intimidating with its hit points and with its melee, but you can definitely throw class levels on top of this guy to make him scarier, to bump him up to CR3, CR4, and make him more of a challenge. Just on top of all of this stuff that he's already got, and he's already got as well.
Yep.
And yeah, other than that, it's mostly just the fact that he's not going to be a direct encounter, but he's going to be more of a working behind the scenes, probably working for a CR4 creature that I may or may not mention later on.
Okie dokie. That seems like a good transition. Anybody else have something they want to say about skin stealers or monsters like that? Well, I know I've used something that's a much higher CR. It's like the upgraded version of the Skin Stealer, the Akorchi. But we can... This creature could have been used just as effectively because of its Steel Skin ability. And taking that place of, like you said, the NPC that was helpful and useful to the party for a period of time.
Now all of a sudden he's feeding them misinformation, and he is slowly working to poison their minds.
There we go. Okay. So, working down the line, we will come now to Sarah and Tommy. So, whichever one of you would like to start, what creature do you want to highlight from CR2?
Okay, so I've been looking through it over and over, and there's a lot of really cool stuff that comes in. Like CR2 is where we see, I'm going to say like 95% of the improved familiar table comes in at CR2, and it's also, this is where we start seeing the first wormlings, where we start seeing stuff with like breath weapons and stuff. But I'm going to call it like a last second audible and bring up that this is also where we start seeing the lycanthropes. And they're really good, and I'm super guilty. Like, I am the munchkiniest of munchkins. I know I am. And there's all those people out there, like, you'll see in forums and on threads, like, I want to get this template. I want to be this kind of thing. How do I go about doing it? It's not always a good thing. So if we take, like, a werewolf or a werebear and just, like, drop it in there, especially if you've got a new group who doesn't know what else going on or how you're going to run something, and then they just gung-ho to get bit by that werebear, and then the next full moon, which might be 5 or 6 levels later, depending on how fast you level, suddenly it's will save or you lose control of yourself and you start eating the flesh of the party. Like me personally, I know I really like templates, and I really like however, like I can, but they're not always a good thing. And like Joe's saying about having somebody invade the NPCs and have somebody go in that way, in the same vein, pun not intended, but you can keep it, in the same vein, using the where whatevers, I think CR2 specifically is where we have wolf and bear, and you fail to save if somebody's real excited about that, and then a couple weeks later you take the character sheet from them and you start attacking the party. It takes a dynamic of somebody getting excited for raw stat buffs, and it throws it pretty much on its head, and it forces that party to now suddenly we have to not necessarily derail, I'm not going to go that far, but now we have to find a cure for this guy's lycanthropy, and or now this guy has to convert to like some nature deity worship so he can learn to control himself. Just creates really good, like, I'm not going to say side quests because I don't really like the term side quest, kind of doesn't taste right, but that's the idea. It's something to give your players to do. Oh, also they have DR10 over silver, and at level 2, players probably aren't going to beat that, especially if you're like a party of rogues or something. Adam, I see you trying to talk. You are muted.
He's talking to somebody else.
Oh, got it. Okay. But anyway, DR10 over silver is, like I said, it's really hard for people to beat unless, I mean, like you've got like a party of spellcasters, they're just going to ping you with magic missile to death at this level. But if it's just a bunch of dudes with long swords, those dudes with long swords, especially like the lower down the point by trying to scratch this thing.
Yeah, lycanthropes, and then making that fun bit. Of course, with me as the GM, I would probably make the other player attack the group instead of me taking the sheet, because I'm just evil that way. But because then it's much more potent when that player's character wakes up and the player did all of the damage that creature did, not the GM. So that's just me, though. That's just me. Anybody else have remarks about the lycanthropes in general, I suppose, is what that particular highlight was for.
When it comes to using such templates like that, you need to use it quite carefully, as it could damage things at the table for everyone, especially players' relationship between each other. Especially if they take it quite personal, having their character be killed by another character in the party.
Yeah. At our table, I don't think we have a big problem with that, especially since Kane's character has at least once smacked my character in a...
I didn't try to kill you. I just sucker punched you.
Yes. Fair point. Fair point. But
True. This is something that a group need to talk about first if it's going to be used, especially if a group that haven't been playing together not that long or do not know each other all that well.
Mhm.
yeah, use with discretion. I think that unless they got it diagnosed, like with what Tommy said, if they don't know each other, if you guys don't game together on a regular basis and understand each other and the nature of the game, and that happens, that first time the GM should take the sheet. And if that player TPKs his buddies, then he should probably become an NPC, and everybody should probably make some different characters. So
Yeah.
that would probably be the easiest way to handle that situation should a TPK happen at the hands of another PC character.
Mhm.
Free tip there from the Planar Crossroads and Black Dragon Gaming. All right, Sarah, what would do you have one you want to highlight, or one that you've got a liking for in CR2?
I'm gonna keep it really basic and go with zombies. Because they're really, you can do a lot with them flavor wise. Like you could have it be the like introduction to a like apocalyptic type campaign, or
Oh, so you're
you could
talking
have it be like
specifically
a part of a
about
quest.
the apocalypse zombie. So,
Yeah.
well, you stole mine.
I stole it.
Yes.
Oh
Good job.
no. Well,
Okay,
okay.
say what you're gonna
Well,
say
there's
about
like
the
5 or
apocalypse
6
zombie.
other zombies in the book at that level.
And we can both say different things about it, but I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I've got
Um,
backups. I've got backups.
Okay. You can add to it if I didn't say what you wanted to say, but they're just pretty like flavorful. You can do a lot with them, like start a campaign about zombies, or like have like a side quest where you get a necromancer who's raising a bunch of people from the dead, and it's like we talked about with like if you're unfamiliar with a play group, zombies are pretty like basic, so you don't have to worry about like freaking people out or something. Kind of crowd pleasing, basic entry level type encounter. So it's just simple and everybody's familiar with it. So
And zombies can definitely, at least the apocalypse zombies, like you were talking about, they get the good stuff, the stuff you think about with, or at least what I think about with zombies. They're not slow.
Well, mechanically,
Yeah.
they're like base zombies with 3 different templates on them, which is why they're CR2 instead of CR. What, a third is what the normal zombies are?
Yeah, I think it was 1/3, something like that. But yeah, these zombies, they're not slow. They're fast zombies. They got 40 foot of movement because their body's not holding back
Sweet.
and restraining itself. They have a lot going on for them. That if you want to feel like the end of the world campaign, that's why they're called the apocalypse zombie. Because if you get a horde of these type of creatures, if you get like 3 or 4 of these type of creatures coming at you, their AC may only be 14, but at a CR2, they've got 22 hit points base. As a base recommendation. I always max out hit points when I do creatures, because, people take them out anyway. But they got a +10 to their grapple, and they're a CR2. They got a +10 to their grapple, and a death burst, and a create spawn, and a brain eating, and a disease, and it's just nice. It's pretty nice. So I agree with Sarah's choice. It is good.
good.
All right. Well, you were the last one here, Kane, but I don't want you to be the last one to go. So, you're next. Do you have anything you want to highlight on CR2? Muted.
My mic was turned off. That was very proud of that. My monster, actually, CR2 was really the only CR that had a monster that I've always really been a fan of. The yellow musk creeper, if anybody knows what that is.
Mm-hmm.
So for anyone who doesn't, the yellow musk creeper is a plant monster that's kind of like the piranha plant from Little Shop of Horrors, and a cordyceps plant had a baby, and that baby was the devil. They're monsters that are native to like the jungles or underground, or sometimes they also going back to ghouls, sometimes grow in graveyards that are left unchecked for a long time. They basically if something gets too close, they grapple it, shoot spores in its face to make it docile, and then bore tendrils into that creature's brain.
Really nice visuals, you know.
Yeah, they're if you're playing in a group where your players aren't really into body horror, maybe don't do that. But they're sort of like a gross they're like a good gross like sort of body horror Starship Troopers monster that sucks out your brain and replaces it with a plant.
Yep.
And I think they're kind of neat low-level monsters because they're one of the times you're definitely going to be able, if you use them in an encounter, you're going to be using them in an encounter where you have one bigger monster and then like sort of a crowd of weak little crappy monsters. The base Yellow Musk Creeper zombie that it creates is only a CR half, and that usually assumes that it's turned some sort of medium-sized humanoid creature, but you could very easily say that a particularly stupid ogre or something was taken over by one.
Yeah.
And they have most of the same traits that the base zombie does. They're slow, they're staggered every round, so they can only take one action. They can move or they can attack, which I know is what Adam really doesn't like about the base zombie. But the interesting thing about Yellow Musk Creeper zombies is they're not actually zombies. They're not undead. They're plant creatures. So if you throw this at a low-level party that has a cleric in it, and they're real gung-ho on their maybe they got a little cocky with their turn undead or their positive energy spells early on in the game, and all of a sudden these gross zombies with flowers growing out of their ears show up. It's not going to work. They're going to end up accidentally healing these zombies if they've already done damage to them, or just ineffectually doing nothing with a turn undead ability, because they're not affected by positive energy or like spells that affect undead in the same way that a normal zombie would be.
Yeah, a great curveball to throw at them when they start to get really comfortable with you throwing undead at them.
Yeah, and since they're plants, they're really not picky about what they kill and infest. So depending on where you put these zombies, you're going to end up with different critters, right? So if you stick them underground, you're going to have maybe dwarves or Durgar if you're real deep underground, or some drow, or other underground stuff like bugs. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like slicer beetles and worms, and I suppose it wouldn't work with a Thakwa because they're elementals. But you get my point.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to mess with the players, this was a short campaign I ran. This was a zombie apocalypse, and the party had to deal with the plague in a city. And I used the musk zombies, and pretty much I used the citizens of that city as a base zombie group that that the party needed to kill to find a cure to the plague. And that was off-putting to the players, killing people who were friends and family to their characters once.
Okay. Well, yeah, zombies are more psychological obstacles than they are necessarily physical ones.
Mm.
If it's hard to be afraid of something you can outpace at a brisk walk.
Yeah, yeah. Which is why I don't like the staggered.
Yeah, but if you get cornered somewhere with a couple of them and they're NPCs you used to know or your mom, it's a significantly higher hurdle to call I could just brain this thing, but hey dad,
Yep. Oh, that's
Having a plant zombie that looked like a related to your character when they kill you would cause an interesting RP moment when they die.
yeah. I mean, that's when I would
luckily
think,
unlike.
Hmm?
Go ahead.
that's when I would think you
Go
would
ahead.
start doing maybe some will saves or some things like that for psychological effects on sanity or the like. Even though there's no technical
I was
sanity
gonna-
thing.
There's sanity rules in horror adventures.
Oh, well, good to know. I need to incorporate that more often.
Yeah, I think Francis has 48 sanity points.
Those points are super unwieldy, though, for real. As someone who was really excited that they existed in an Eldritch horror game that I ran, I guess I like that the rules exist, and I'm grateful that someone thought them up. But can we just will save before it happens, because it's a lot of math you have to do.
Oh, was the system complicated?
Calculate the threshold and stuff like that. Yeah, it's really wonky.
Oh, one of these weeks we should talk about really.
I guess I
really...
appreciate again where they went with it.
What was that, Kane?
Sorry. I was going to say one of these weeks we should talk about really, really badly worded feats like divine geometry.
Oh.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we probably will do that at some point. That's probably one more for Black Dragon Gaming channel.
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys might know a little bit more about obscure, ridiculous feats than we would.
Yeah.
All right.
So
that's CR2, I believe. Let's move on to CR3. Keep this train a rolling. So CR3, let's work. Oh, I didn't do my CR2, did I? Okay, my CR2.
No, that's what I was waiting for.
No, my CR2. Since somebody took my CR2, I will probably.
Oh yeah.
I'll have to go to a secondary. I actually am going to highlight one that I haven't got to use yet, but I think that is really flavorful, since she tagged the one that was really mechanically nice. I'll do the one that is flavorful, and that is actually, where did we go? The Ratling. So the Ratling is, there we go, open link in new tab. So the Ratling is, this rat-like creature has tiny human hands in place of its front paws and an unnerving human face with a toothy mouth. So, yeah, this thing, man, if you want to start unnerving people, I don't shake real easy, but I'm like, man, this thing is freaky looking. Because the picture that they did was really good. I'll try to pull it up for everyone that's watching. But the Ratling, the reason I like it so much is that if you ever read the H.P. Lovecraft or listened to the H.P. Lovecraft story, Dreams in the Witch House, that's where I think they got their inspiration for the Ratling. And it was a familiar, and as such, it can become a familiar of I think you got to be 7th level, if I'm right. Scroll. Yeah, you can become a familiar at 7th level. It's chaotic evil, but it has the ability for scroll use, and it has a constant detect magic, read magic, speak with animals, rodents only, spider climb, and tongues. So this thing could be constantly assailing the PCs with scrolls because it has scroll use. Maybe it's using the scrolls of its leftover master that died long ago. because this thing exists outside of its master. Its intelligence is not dependent upon its master. So it can cause fear. It's not a very strong monster by itself, but if you start throwing scrolls in there, you give it a scroll of fireball and let it use magic device on that thing, all it needs is one level of something to start putting things into it, and its intelligence is a 12, so it's not stupid. It's a little above average. So it can do a lot of fun things. So that's my monster that I want to highlight, because it can do things, and because it can communicate with rodents. Maybe it's got rat swarms for rats in the walls. Some more RP HP Lovecraft vibes. Definitely something fun. So that's mine. There it is. Let's show it to people. Right there. That thing looks creepy. Copy image location. But now we're done with CR2. Let's move on to CR3 and work our way back up the way we came. So Kane, you go first. Do you have anything from CR3?
CR3, nothing really caught my eye, so I guess I'll talk about one of my in-person GM's favorite monsters, which is the Onkeg. Onkegs are terrifying to look at, and not much better to have to fight, especially if you're on level with them. They're large. You're also going to notice this. A lot of my picks are basically bugs and plants.
That's fine.
They're like large, six-legged, acid-spitting cockroaches that they have a burrow speed, so they live deep underground. They kind of hunt like ambush predators, like antlions. They'll wait for things to get close and then jump out at them. And they're mean. They're nasty. They've got really good perception. They've got tremor sense and low light vision and dark vision. They've got not amazing, but decent ACs for CR3 at 16. And they have a burrow speed, so they can usually, if they need to get away from you, they can. Like, they can run away. If they're not going to dart down one of their own pre-made escape tunnels, they're going to make one. And with burrow speeds, generally that hole fills in behind them, so you're not going to be able to follow them.
Yeah, monsters that can get away are always fun to throw at your players because they hate it when XP gets away.
We love it so much when the XP runs away. A really nasty thing about Onkegs, aside from the acid spitting, is they have a high grapple because of their big jaws. So they'll bite you, get a free grab off, and then burrow. And they'll just leave you underground to suffocate. And then when you're dead, they'll come back and eat your body. That's how they hunt, basically. They're really nasty unless, if they manage to maintain a grapple long enough to pull you underground, they're really nasty to deal with if you don't have a way to get your party members back.
Yeah. Your wizard's trailing behind? Oh, that's too bad.
But outside from being like a scary ambush encounter, I don't really have anything to say about Onkegs.
Okie dokie. All right. So we'll move to Sarah and Tommy. Sarah, do you have a monster from CR3?
Yeah. I have the Deinonychus, and I picked it because it has 4 attacks, and so that's cool. But like if you put a bunch of newbies up against the Deinonychus, they might be like, "Oh my god, it has 4 attacks!" Ah, and really early on in the game. And you can also like pair it with other dinosaurs too it'll be like flavorful and stuff.
And if I know my dinosaur lore correctly, Deinonychus usually hunted in packs, is what is.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I'd rather flip that instead of a single Deinonychus. I'd rather this be like a CR6 encounter with a crap ton of these guys coming at you.
And they have.
And they all
pounce.
have pounce, and they all have like 4 attacks.
Yeah.
From what I understand of it, that's like if we're playing like in society play or something like that, the Deinonychus is supposed to be the go-to animal companion for that reason because it has so many attacks and pounce.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't have
It's
pounce,
also like the
but
go-to.
it's bestiary entry, but we can get into that.
The
Is it
thing
really
on
not?
here says
Yeah, it does.
Improved
Yeah.
initiative and run. I'm looking at them right now.
under special attacks, it shows pounce.
That's what
It's
mine
not
says
under-
too.
It's not under the.
Oh,
feats.
okay, yeah, I see it.
I really wish pounce was a feat. Oh man.
No, it's
It's a monster feat,
pounce. Usually it's a monster feat.
but yeah,
Mhm.
that's a pretty solid one with those 4 attacks and stuff like that going on. Because they're with improved initiative, run, and pounce, things are going to get real fast. And a plus 15 to stealth, and a plus 22 to jump, plus 10 to regular acrobatics, but a plus 22 when they're jumping.
Nah,
gonna
plus
get
22 to jump's not that high.
You're not going to get away from them. I mean, yeah, okay, it's not that high. They only have to roll a 10 to get a 32.
It's not a plus 63, all right? It's
The thing about results numbered at that CR, unless if you min-max and make your characters hyper specialized in certain areas, you're not going to beat that creature numbers.
I mean, I always min max, so
Min-maxing and
Yes.
min-maxing and optimize characters can be fun if it's done right.
Mhm. I mean, that's literally the definition of min-maxing, right? Doing it right.
yeah. If you're not doing it right, you're not min maxing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then you're
Before
just
the-
minning.
Before the flame war starts in the comments, but please do let it start in the comments. It boosts our views.
Yeah.
Go ahead and argue in the comments. We don't care. Tommy, it is your turn.
So we're talking about min-maxing, and I guess that's an appropriate segue into mine. I hadn't thought about building this archetype on a fighter before last Tuesday, before Shadow over Milcian, but a fighter with 3 levels has 3 feats, and if those 3 feats are Ride by Attack, Mounted Combat, Spirited Charge, he hurts players really bad. It's if you don't know, a lance does 1d8 plus strength damage, and then like if you can find a way, I mean, I guess upping the gold on him to give him power attack as a bonus feat, or make him like a human so he has power attack. Damage go up even higher. Say we're on like a 1d8 plus 6 damage, we'll say. With Spirited Charge, that becomes 1d8 plus 6 times 3 if you charge while mounted, which is at max. That's, I don't want to do math. It kills people. Is what the math is. They can't catch them because you're riding on somebody, you just like blitz past them, hit them, and I don't like the fact that the feat exists because I think it pushes archetype from the realm of like super powerful, and there's a reason this dominated medieval combat, to just like as broken as hell. But with Ride by Attack, you don't provoke, so you just dead party.
Fart a bunch and then kill the whole party.
Pretty much. At lower levels, though, like, unless there's like, I'm not gonna say GM shenanigans, but like if your GM lets you begin play with a rolled down, like I had a wyvern once and it was a lot of fun. But in like your average game, you're gonna assume at low levels you're gonna be on horseback, and that horse has probably a much lower will save than the fighter. The horse probably has much less hit points, less armor class, and if you take the horse out, you take out the charger's ability to charge. And I played this from level 1 to, this is my strongest character, the farthest I ever got, to level 32. My pick for CR3 is a centaur.
I thought that's what you were leading up to.
It doesn't have to worry. It is technically, I think it's called like Natch or something like that, is the feat if your GM gets super fussy about, well, he's not mounted, blah, blah, blah. He's a dude and a horse. There's no reason he shouldn't be able to just couch his lance, go forward, smack him in the face. And I played there's a monk archetype that lets you full attack, and then mounted skirmisher lets you, if you move up to double your speed, you full attack. So I'm charging, full attacking with the lance, and like one-shotting, well, like 5 or 6 shotting, but one rounding, like the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, just run up to him, do some spin moves, stab, 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 stab.
Spin move.
Pretty much. And the reason I'm picking centaurs here as opposed to just a human fighter is, and the reason I played a centaur in that game in the first place, like together that group was going to be, and I was well, I don't really want to track stats for a horse, so I'll play a centaur. The centaur doesn't have to take care of his mount. He is his mount. The centaur doesn't have to make ride checks because he can probably just make acrobatic and climb without having to like clinch his quads together and try to figure out how he's pulling his horse up the tree or something like that. It's like you take out that part of the equation, the players can remove by just killing whatever it is you're mounted on. And you also, like, you don't have a 2 intelligence thing you have to babysit. If your GM gets real, like, and it's not a bad thing if they do it, but if the GM gets real, like, micromanaged on how you feed your horse or what your horse can and cannot do in combat, Centaur doesn't have that problem. Level 3, if you want, especially, like, you're going to need open ground, but other than that, unless the Centaur has like ranger levels and you can move through difficult terrain. But yeah, for mine, level 3, the Centaur.
Yeah, and the Centaur, looking at it, has undersized weapons. So,
Mhm.
you know, he gets to use all those weapons that you're picking up. You don't have to find a bunch of... let me see.
Large
Although the
lance.
Centaur is large, his upper torso is the same size as a medium humanoid. As a result, they wield weapons as if they were one size category smaller than their actual size. Medium.
So they wield
most
medium
Centaurs.
weapons.
So those fancy lances or those fancy things you're picking up, you don't have to pay as much for loot overhead sometimes. Because sometimes GMs will do that when you start to play races that are kind of funny. So they do have that there.
Centaur is a playable race. I think it's like 28 RP or something like that. But it's not like... It has a... I think what tips it over into the like high RP is the fact that it has like, in addition to a buff to its wisdom, it has like advanced wisdom, advanced strength, advanced blase. If you pull those off, it's probably going to land like in the 1920 range, and that's not much better than like a Fetchling or an Azamor or anything like that. So I personally think as long as like a race doesn't get like 25 million extra hit points, I don't see any reason why they're not playable. So that's my argument for letting players play Centaur.
Yeah, but I mean, if they don't have that amount of hit points, they're not min-maxing it out right? So they're not doing it right?
Yeah.
All right. Before we get into that again, it's Joe's turn.
Well, speaking about min-maxing, I always say if the players... Well, no, Tommy said at first, but I've taken it to heart as well. If the players can do it, I can do it. And taking that to heart, just like the Skin Stealer, I have chosen another shape changer. This one is the Doppelganger. And what makes him really powerful is that he's not only better at disguising himself, not only better at bluffing people, but Doppelgangers get to mimic what they're proficient all weapons, armors, and shields. In addition, they don't have to have the spell components to cast spells. A creature's spell list. So, a Doppelganger can copy a player character, take their spell list, and use it against them. Geez, that's scary.
That's really scary when they don't have to have the components.
Yeah. And if you're tracking components. If you're like a CR3 creature, like a Doppelganger can take down, like I'm going to cast, like if you're going to cast a really powerful spell that requires an expensive component that you need to track, this Doppelganger also has it, and he doesn't need to track it. And he can, like, again, these guys are not only, like, they can min-max themselves, and, like, not only that, but they can also, they have Detect Thoughts at will. It's a DC 13. It's not that scary. But they're coming in at a time when probably the characters aren't going to be ready to deal with someone who is a Doppelganger. These guys are probably going to be considering their intelligence, they're probably going to be the guys who are underlings to a skin stealer, who is their leader, who has a few class levels. These guys have probably been roped into being evil because they start out neutral. They can actually be a good guy if you want them to be. Of course, they're intelligent enough; they don't have to be evil. But you can take these guys, throw an NPC on them, throw a PC on them, and all of a sudden they're incredibly terrifying. No one knows who they can trust. No one knows what's going on really when it comes to fighting these guys, because they could be anyone.
What if
And on top of that,
what if the PCs come into a whole town of doppelgangers and they don't know they're doppelgangers?
exactly.
Adam, in a game that I played in, I had that happen to me once, and we had a solution to know who was a doppelganger and who not. We simply poisoned everyone's food to know who was a doppelganger, and we killed the doppelgangers.
And everyone else.
Yeah, we pretty much killed who was not a doppelganger, and that was pretty much everyone. We couldn't trust no one, and we even poisoned ourselves to make sure we are not doppelgangers.
Okay, I mean that solves the problem, but it doesn't really solve the problem.
Yeah, you're not solving a problem that way. What you're doing is you're just brute forcing a solution.
Can I make a prediction for Joe's CR4 pick?
Yeah.
Is it the Faceless Stalker?
Yep.
Oh, well, I don't know.
I love that.
Man. All right.
I love that. One of my favorite moments in a game was making a whole bunch of clones of, I believe only Tommy and Matt were in there at the time, but making a whole bunch of clones and be like, help me, Ezio, help me, Logandolf, help me.
Ezio and Logandolf?
Yeah, Tommy was playing Ezio. Matt, he made a
I really like Assassin's Creed, and Matt couldn't come up with a name to save his life. Like, I GM for Logan. No, if you had Galvassus.
Oh yeah,
His name is
Galvat.
Peggy. It's Peggy.
Yeah. It was Galvassus.
How many times did Peggy abandon him because he lost his paladin status for?
The deck of many things is a really mean thing.
Off from it if you're a paladin. That's that simple, but.
Another thing to add about doppelgangers, if a GM is using them, you really should use them carefully, as players may know they're a doppelganger out of game.
You simply don't let them use their meta knowledge in game.
Yeah, true.
It's like, I know he's a doppelganger. Okay, he's not a doppelganger anymore. Now Miss Miller down the street's doppelganger. If you want to metagame, I'll metagame around you.
Yeah, true. Doppelgangers are one of those creatures you should disbelieve in character knowledge what they are.
Yeah, you have to have
You
a
use them
reason not
properly.
to believe.
If you're having problems with metagaming, just go around their metagaming.
Yeah.
All right.
It's my turn next.
Yep.
One monster that I definitely
I'm done, apparently.
Well, probably we're gonna let you get to your faceless stalker when it comes around, because Kane spoiled it. We're still gonna hold it over.
I was just following a pattern, man.
Okay. My pick, it is the water elemental. So picture this encounter. A party, they go to a water plane or a environment that you have to face the water elementals in their own environment. So a larger CR3 elemental and a bunch of CR1 elementals. And you use the terrain, which is a water theme environment, to their advantage. And that's a challenge upon itself if you use all of the water elemental abilities together and using the weaker ones to help the bigger one to defeat a party. Especially if you use the water elemental vortex and water mastery ability.
Definitely once upon a time. I don't know if we ever actually did it, but there was a running joke in one of my games that the entire inner sea was actually one giant water elemental. And like I can agree with. I see what you're saying. We never actually that didn't happen for anything other than flavor. But I mean, yeah, if something can, and I imagine a water elemental can just like stealth in the water, and you perceive it as just water until it decides to start wailing on you.
True. It would be. It would be like. I can't remember. It would be Hydro Man from the Spider-Man cartoon series.
Mm-hmm.
You do not know he's in the water until it's too late, pretty much.
And then you're surrounded by them, and they all start just like beating you up.
Yes. So water elementals in their own environment. A party could go through a water theme park and not know water elementals are around them until, surprise, you're being attacked by water elementals.
Yeah, and then the party's doing all half damage to them because unless they like all came in with spears and tridents and like anything with piercing, they're all just doing half damage while bonuses for being in the water, and maybe they don't notice them in the first place, and here they come, just you're dead.
Yeah, true. Certain monsters in their natural environment, that's a hazard upon itself, if used right.
Speaking of the environment is the monster, the scenarios. This is obviously a much higher CR, but I know there's a gargantuan ooze called a living lake.
Ooh. I'm tempted.
Ooh.
Alternatively, you could also probably use like an elder water elemental. You know, like the lake that sleeps. There's just like a huge mass of water somewhere.
Which actually remind me, for the ooze that you mentioned, a GM that I listened to a session that he recapped, he actually used a basic mimic, but made it into a Wizard's Tower size monster that the party had to go inside to actually kill the mimic.
Yeah, there used to be, I think it was in AD&D, but there used to be like specific names for mimics that were really, really big. Like they had a specific name for a mimic that was an entire castle.
Yeah, I know
Like,
what you're talking about.
Own sort of unique monster.
It's like the mimic grew up to be a doppelganger, and the doppelganger grew up to be this thing, and I don't remember what it's called, but I know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So mimics, water elementals, they're fun to use if you play to their strengths.
All right.
Okay.
And let me see. Oh, it's on me now. Okay. There were a lot of fun monsters at this particular level. There's things like that we'll highlight later on, but I know everyone's really probably expecting me to go with the Shadow. And
The Shadow?
Yeah, the Shadow. So that's what I'll probably do, simply because I like to highlight a monster that I've had a lot of experience with. And the Shadow has been an excellent monster. I've got a lot of mileage out of it, because I've used them 3 times now, and each time it's gone down. It makes it tough for the PCs, because the Shadow is, it's an incorporeal, so it's going to have that going on for it, just the regular old Shadow. It's got an int of 6 as a base, so it's probably podunk farmer kind of smart, or a level of intelligence, and so it's not going to be incredibly stupid. And it can fly. It can stealth around, especially in dim light, where it gets a plus 12, and it still gets a plus 8 when it's not in dim light, and it still gets a plus 4 when it's in dim light. So it's a minus 4 in bright light, though, so there is that. But you guys, if you've been watching the games that we've been doing in either of the Milcian installments, you'll know that this was a big thing happening there, and it's a theme for that particular bad guy. So it has really given me lots of mileage, because I didn't know how good they were until I almost took out I started taking out Gideon in the Rise of the Rune Lords. Because I'd never used him up before then. But then Gideon went into that room. And all of a sudden these shadows came out and started attacking him because he's the most good thing in that room. And they were hitting. And
Well, you
he
had
was losing
Joe
strength.
down to 1 strength too.
Yeah. But that wasn't the first time I've ever used him. The first time I'd ever used them was in Rise of the Rune Lords, and I didn't know how good they were, or could be.
Oh, they're super gnarly. They're a CR3 incorporeal monster. I think they're the first. That's the first incorporeal monster that shows up.
I don't know. We'd have to look at that. But that's my pick. I won't spend too much time on it because you can see it in action on our different games.
Yeah, shadows are so gross. I feel the same way you do. Like, I know shadows are good, and you see them all over, like, everywhere that you're doing tabletop stuff. Like, shadows are bad, and they are bad, but I didn't realize how super bad they were until a lot of times when I'll need to, like, do filler, well, not filler dungeons, but when I need a dungeon, a lot of times I'll pull something out of an AP use, and say where in the Jade Regent adventure path there's a point where a player can wander off by themselves, and then suddenly here comes 5 or 6 shadows, and it's assumed that you're like, it's towards the end of the AP. I think it was your Arcanist. Yeah, it was Sarah's Arcanist decides to go off this way while like Brian's on a Paladin, Joe's on the infamous Dawn-Cot, and the Arcanist has no strength essentially, and then here come all these shadows. It's not hard for them to hit, and you're gone.
I thought everyone was gonna go with me.
Communication.
You didn't say anything. You just left.
Well, I said
And
like,
the Paladins-
I'm gonna go this way.
The Paladins and Dawn-Cot were
Okay,
like,
look, I'm trying to take charge and take a lead and go one way, and everybody is like, "Oh, let's go inside the church or whatever."
Yeah, that's the part of the AP where you guys go in and then they essentially aggroed the whole dungeon at once. It was, I don't remember the name of the monster, but it's the Japanese mythological thing where the neck gets really long and the face is all blur. I don't remember, but they aggroed that, and then here come all these shadows at Sarah. And, but that was like one of the first times in Pathfinder. Like, ooh, that's pretty good. I get it now. Okay, yeah, sure, shadows.
Well, yeah, and it's strength damage that's no save either. They just hit you and it happens.
Yeah, that's what makes it powerful. There's no save. If they hit you, it happens. That's nice. As a GM,
Another
I mean,
good thing. Another good thing about Incorporeal Undead, unless if it say otherwise, it is against touch AC that their attacks. So most corporeal undead, it is touch AC they need to beat.
Yeah, they will always hit you, and they will always, like, it doesn't, I don't like playing high strength characters. I think you can get more mileage out of the dex characters. There are some caveats, of course, but like, no one wants to see their strength go down really low, especially if your GM's real heavy on encumbrance rules. And then suddenly you realize you can't move because, like, the cooking pot you're carrying or the loot you've been picking up or whatever it is.
Cooking
is now-
pot, is this flapjack we're talking about?
No, it's actually Emeralda. But the point stands. You're going to end up where you're just crawling and the shadows just start, like, touching you to death. And then you become a shadow too, I think, right? Eventually, after, like, 1d4 hours or whatever, now you're another problem. The problem expands upon itself, and then everybody dies.
Yeah, I mean, what would happen if, you did that to a few commoners, and then those commoners did it to the other commoners, and then those commoners did it to other commoners? If you want to find out, watch The Strange Events at Milcian. But I think that's everything for
if you want to
CR3.
see two Slavic, a Slavic Azamar, a French Azamar, and a Slavic halfling, and a Scottish fairy fight all of those shadows, watch the next episode.
Yeah, that is exactly why I came in on a magic weapon, though. Sometimes I'll miss that +1 enchantment, but I was like, we're probably fighting shadows. I better, yeah, +1. Here we go. I'm going to hit that thing.
It's understandable. You guys have worked with the guild anyway, so having magical weapons, being level 4, it's no big strange thing.
You hadn't realized that that holy weapon bomb only worked for 1 hit.
Rough.
Dum, dum, dum.
Otherwise, I would have bought more pots of it.
Mhm.
All right. So we're up to CR4, and this is where we're going to get everybody's final thoughts on the monsters that they want to showcase. So let's bounce around a bit. Kane, why don't you go first?
I just went first. Let's go with Joe.
Yeah.
Fine.
You already know what mine is.
Yeah. Let's get
Get
that's
it
a
out of
good
the way.
idea. Let's get Joe's out of the way.
As we had discussed earlier, as Kate had guessed, I've chosen the Faceless Stalker. Again, we're following the scenario of an entire city filled with skin stealers, doppelgangers, and these guys are probably going to be your like town guardsmen. Like they're the strongest. They have a DR over piercing or slashing. They have a blood drain attack. They have sneak attack. They're probably the worst and the best at disguise. They have the worst when they're using their change shape, but they have tongues constantly, so they can take over, and they don't have to be like, well, I could only be an elf because all I know is elf, elven, not elf. But these guys, for some reason, they get a really weird. Their change shape it requires them 10 minutes to alter their body because they're an aberration. But they can maintain it indefinitely, and I believe it is a perfect copy to the point where it's just their mannerisms is what the disguise is covering. But they can revert back instantly. They get a +2 morale bonus on attack rolls, damage rolls, skill checks, and saving throws for 1 round afterwards. I believe that's just because it now has an advantage over the people they're attacking. Is the reason that happens. But when they're their normal form, they're probably the strongest in their normal form because they get a +4 on saving throws to resist attacks or effects that target their senses. So if someone's trying to like blind them, it's not going to work on them. And that's gaze attacks, odor attacks, sonic attacks, and similar attacks. So color spray is useless. Like these guys probably have the strongest form. They're like I said, they're gonna be the town's guardsmen because they're not good at hiding, and they're probably the strongest outside of their hiding form.
Yep. And if they end up grappling somebody with their +11 grapple, they can do a blood drain, which drains away a con, which is never nice. So
Are we talking about an entire city made of changelings, essentially, or shapeshifters?
Yeah,
That's terrifying.
Yeah, they don't even have to be evil. They're probably mostly going to be doppelgangers, but then there's going to be a few evil ones in there, and then you're going to start murdering doppelgangers left and right.
Also, can we talk about how when I play the same thing over and over again, I'm an asshole, but if Joe picks the same monster again and again, I'm still an asshole?
Hey, he's not playing the same person for several sessions, He's
He
picking
is if
something
he's
to highlight.
DMing.
Well, I didn't say anything about DMing. We just give you a hard time for always playing an alchemist.
Oh, man, I'm going to DM a game where everyone's an alchemist.
Hey, if you're DMing, I'm fine with that.
I mean, I basically DM and every character's a swashbuckler, so...
Well, actually, I'm not going to play multiple characters who are all alchemists. I'm just going to play one really high-level clone master.
Well, that would work.
Seeing a one-shot, everyone playing alchemist, that would be quite interesting to see each type of alchemist.
Because definitely no two alchemists are created equal for sure.
Alchemist, they're the bomber alchemist. They're the transmutation specialist alchemists, I think.
Yeah. There's pretty much whatever you want to do magically, you can do it on an alchemist, and it's... I don't know, I think they're really strong.
Yeah,
There's a discovery, you give them a gun, and then you have a 15-foot cone of bomb, just...
So it's like when everybody's listening.
Good job, Sarah.
Yeah, like a shotgun?
No.
So it's
No. I can't think the grenade launcher in Fallout or
More or
New
less.
Vegas.
Yeah.
God damn it.
It would be the nuke. It would be the I
Mini
mini nuke.
We're not quite at the fat.
It's not quite fast.
It would be the
Eventually,
Farman.
get a high level
It's
Farman.
China
That's
Lake.
actually a Farman that launched the mini nuke. Alchemist bombs. I used a talent bomber for a rogue that I played, and those bombs are quite handy.
Sarah did just take that on her rogue.
Okay, so Faceless Stalkers. Definitely
Yeah.
a good pick, because they get sneak attack, blood drain, all that type of stuff. It's pretty harsh. Alright.
Gnarly, dude.
Yeah. So, since Joe went, we'll do the middle people first. So, Tommy, what is yours for CR4?
I have 2 honorable mentions because I was stuck 3 ways, but there's no way I'm not going to pick the one that's really powerful. First honorable mention is a pixie because the pixie has improved invisibility and a ranged attack. So they will never find you with a stealth score of even like you take a -20 for sniping, but you get a +40 if you don't move and you're invisible. So they're probably not going to find you, and you just shoot them forever. I also really like Hydras, just I guess for the flavor. I really enjoy using them. But my pick definitively is the Leech Swarm at CR4 because this is another example of a monster that I didn't realize how good it would be. And we're in a swamp. Here is some water. We should have leeches. Oops. And didn't even realize how powerful. To break it down, it's a swarm, so they automatically do damage as long as they're in your square. And they have a swim speed of 30, so if they're in the water, you just move, we'll say 1 leech swarm because we're nice. We're going to move 1 leech swarm into somebody's square, and then that means they take 2d6 damage, and then they have to do a fort save at DC 15, and it's poison, so it stacks up and up for 1d4 dex damage. The scary bit is at the start of the player's turn, so it's like, okay, it's my turn, or okay, surprise round, I'm going to move all these dudes into your square and damage, and then your turn, no save, you take 1d3, and I guess a little higher than CR4 if we have like 5 or 6 of these, I guess. You're just constantly at no save and no happens. You're draining all their. Assuming eventually they're going to fail that 4th save is fast. Especially on characters that might not have so much con or so much dex or so much strength. Eventually this adds up, and it's like okay, when I was playing Aiden in that one shot with my mutagen, I took 6 strength damage. And that wasn't fun. That was not fun to roll my own strength damage. And I rolled a 6. But 16 strength on a Lancer, I'm still unplayable. But had you hit my dex of, I want to say 12 with the racial bonus, or that gets scary really fast. And the Leech will cover all 3 of those bases most likely. Everybody's going to have one of those, not necessarily dumped, but at least low enough to where in a couple of successful swarm attacks and blood drains and stuff, it's going to become a huge problem, especially drain their strength too much in the water. They're going to start failing swim checks, and they sink, you swarm down upon them, and it gets really out of hand, gnarly, really fast.
Yep. And it's, like you said, it's doing strength and con damage, so it's not hitting just one of those stats. So one of those attributes is going down pretty heavy. And yes, GMs, it's a good idea to let your players
your
roll
con is
their
going
own
down
damage.
for sure, and then
because they can't blame you.
I guess I didn't realize it, but it's I didn't realize it, but that's even better because the con damage will happen. There is no save for that. That makes the fort save go down, and it's already going up because it's a poison, so it's going to tick up more and more every time. So eventually they're going to succumb to it.
Yeah, very gnarly monster. Okie dokie. So, Sarah, do you have one for this particular CR?
Yeah. I picked owlbears for a couple reasons.
Because you think they're cute?
They have a... Yes, I do. Well, kind of actually. I guess I'll get to that first. When I was first starting out with D&D, I met Tommy like twice before, and he's like, "Let's go to D&D." I'm like, "I don't know what that is." Well, I know what it is, but I'm like, "I don't know what I'm doing." And he's like, "Okay, well, you can pick this. You can pick this character, and you can play a ranger." And I'm like, "Okay, sure, whatever. That sounds fine." And then he's like, "You get an animal companion." I'm like, "Oh, that sounds fun." And he's like, "What kind of animals do you want to do?" I'm like, "Wallabear." And he's like, "You can't do that." I'm like, "Okay." And so I listed a bunch of animals, and he's finally like, "How about an owlbear?" I'm like, "Owlbear! That sounds fun. That sounds cute." I'm like, and then I it ended up dying. Did it actually die, or did it just?
Then that owlbear died a lot.
Okay, that
That
owlbear.
owlbear died to a leech swarm, for one.
Didn't I let it drown?
You didn't let it drown, no. It was like the leashes got up on its arm, and then it's just dead. And an owlbear has a huge physical
But
status.
I was
so-
talking about the one from Aaron's game, like
God, I
way
don't
back in the day. Like I just remember being, "Oh, my owlbear!"
There was a bunch
like
of
day
Atlas
one.
ones. I remember that.
Day one, like I'm pretty sure it died day one.
Yeah.
Um,
That game really
But-
just had a day one in the first place. Anyway.
exactly. But then I ended up playing it later on in Pathfinder, and now I was playing an Awakened Owlbear, but that campaign's kind of, so I'm kind of.
Because
like-
you're GMing it now.
Yeah, I'm jamming it now, so I'm kind of like, "Ooh, what do I do with my character now?" So it's kind of like, not really. But anyways, I have a long history with Owlbear. I also get a plus 12 on Perception, so that's for good. It's good if you have a lot of like roach, sneaky characters. And it has three high attack rolls, and
Does owlbear have grab on all 3 attacks?
no, just the bite,
Just
not
the bite.
no, yeah.
It has 2 claws at a plus 8, and those claws get a grab. And it has a plus 14 to grapple, so.
Yeah, they can be pretty powerful at CR4. So
Yeah, they're rough.
um,
I remember whole like Gary Gygax's tabletop Temple of Elemental Evil, but somewhere around like 2001, I think it was, Temple of Elemental Evil got a PC RPG, and it's even to this day it's super fun. And I think like technically speaking, it's the truest D&D computer RPG in terms of like how combat works and what you can and can't do and blase. But the most powerful random encounter in that was an owlbear. Like you'd be running around, here's some giant frogs or some lizard folk or like some pirates or something, and you get a little, like, you have an overland map and you get an encounter message. You're like, 1 owlbear, engage, and here I am at like, I almost said at level 9, at like age 9. It's like, yeah, let's fight that thing, woohoo! And it just tears your face off.
Yeah. And there's lots of different flavors to the owlbear that they have in the stat blocks available. There's the Arctic, the Pale, the Fruss, the Great Horned, the Screaming, the Siege Owlbear. It says
It's supposed to be the most powerful CR6 thing ever.
bred primarily by orcs. We might have to touch on that one when we get there. The Shalik, the Slime, the Sloth,
Yeah, that's
Spectral. I mean, yeah. It's pretty interesting, pretty good creature to throw at people. Oh,
yeah, they have pretty much as many variations as zombies do. And like I said, the Siege Owlbear is supposed to be the best CR6 thing in the book. I disagree, but they're supposed to be just like gnarly powerful.
Well, we'll probably spotlight it when we get there then. All right. So, Kane, let's have you go, and then Donald.
Okay, for CR4. CR4, I believe this is actually the first time this monster type shows up in the CRs2, is the Wax Golem. Like, I believe it's the first like proper golem that shows up. So you have all the nasty things that come with dealing with golems. They have immunity to most magic. Let me just look at the stat block really quick. So immunity to magic. They've got decent saves, surprisingly, good initiative. But the thing that I find really interesting about them is a lot of golems have like an increasing 1% chance per week thing to happen. Clay golems can go crazy. Iron golems, I don't remember what they do, but a lot of the golems have some sort of conditional effect. Wax golems have conditional sentience. Especially if a wax golem is carved to look like one particular person, there's a chance, increasing over time, that wax golem can gain sentience and truly believe that it is the person it is designed to look like. Which lets you kind of set up a weird... There's a word for it that I can't think of right now. Situation kind of similar to the sort of shenanigans you would pull with a shapeshifter, where the golem believes that it is this person, and if it ever meets the person it's designed to look like in actuality, it will attempt to discreetly kill that person and take their place.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. That's pretty interesting, especially if it's modeled after a PC. Oh, it gets modeled after a PC by a wax museum in the as a tribute to all the PCs, and then one of them disappears from the display for some reason.
I think it would be very expensive to be like, I want a wax statue of myself. Also, make it smart.
Well,
or
hey,
ambulant.
Can it be
or,
animated
you know.
so that later something terrible can happen, please?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, can it be animated so that it can wave at passersby? People love animatronics in our world. Wouldn't they love magical animatronics?
There's totally not an entire series of games based around how animatronics are terrifying.
Hey, there are still animatronic rides that go on all the time, including Pirates of the Caribbean and all those things you go to Disney for. So
We all know an animatronic Johnny Depp is terrifying.
Yeah,
So.
it's the worst part of the Uncanny Valley. Johnny Depp already looks like a fucking robot.
all right, I like that monster. Yes.
They do also have a thing where they're vulnerable to fire damage, and if they take, I think it's half their total hit points in fire damage, they lose their conditional sentience.
That's what it says.
Bing.
But with their vulnerability to fire, if you're hitting them with fire already, they're probably going to be dead by the time they get that low. But they do have that lightning reflex.
But they can take
like
class levels when they become sentients and everything.
Oh yeah, they totally would. You know, because they're that person. They're supposed. This is what they do. You know. What if you played?
Yeah. So see, this CR4 creature that has racial hit dice already is modeled after one of your PCs, who's a 12th level fighter. So this thing gains sentience and out of nowhere has, 12 levels in fighter, along with being a golem.
You know, it would be really interesting that if you had your PCs going and then that thing was made up, and the PCs keep playing, and then all of a sudden one of them gets hit by a fireball, and you look at that player and say, "You're a wax golem. You've been playing a wax golem for the past 3 sessions."
Isn't that an episode of Stargate SG-1?
That's an episode of probably a lot of things, but that would be something to spring on your player and say, "You're a wax golem," and now you know it. You've lost half your hit points to fire damage. What would happen then? The PCs would then be like, "What is going on? Where's our friend? And then they'd have to go on a mission to save their friend. Oh, what if that was the guy that decided to leave the group? Oh, that would be good.
Well, I mean, there would be no saving their friend if they've been replaced by a wax golem. The person they replaced is dead.
Well, I'm going more on the thought line of this other one has been kidnapped, and then this one is the one that replaced it, and that whole thing. But that's just the way I would like to try and use it. I like to do that to my players, so or attempt to. A lot of the times they'll figure things out, especially in an AP, before you get to them. All right, Donald, it's your turn.
Okay. One of my favorite monsters. Let me paint the scene. A group of heroes is helping a old man recovering artifacts to help his research in the lost empire of the lizard folk. During their encounter, the heroes notice that the heroes notice that this old man, he's not really a old man, but have some serpenty. And through the time with the old man so far, they notice that this old man, being a magic fighter, it is a serpent folk using the heroes. And if you look at the serpent folk in the monster entry, they have a bunch of spell-like abilities, pretty intelligent, and can actually be people at will, pretty much. So take a human form and get to use people.
Yep.
Sorry, my mic is giving me a problem. So the serpent folk, if you look at the stats, it gets pretty good abilities when it comes to social encounters and combat as well. And you give that creature class levels, such as a wizard and
Beep.
Yeah, sorry, my mic is cutting out. This is what I get for having a wireless headset. Anyway, so the serpent folk, if you give them class levels in something like a magus or wizard.
Spinning. Okay, so yeah, if you give them class levels, it really gets going. Especially, you're right.
Yes.
They are very intelligent and very dexterous. So Tommy would love them. Tommy would turn them into a.
That's a magus waiting to happen.
So
here's this elven curve blade. Figure it out.
So yeah. They do have weapon finesse
I
too.
like serpent folk a lot. I like him. I don't know a lot about it, but I know huge role in the history of Galarion. And I've got it in my head at some point. I want to make some, well, not make some APs, but like play some campaigns in like long lost eons of Galarion's history. And one of those I want to do like the Aslanti Empire versus the Serpent Folk Empire, essentially. I don't know a whole lot about Serpent Folk, but I know like they play a huge role there. And like you see, I think it's Serpent Skull is the AP where like the closest we have right now for a Pathfinder equivalent for like Mesoamerica for like the Aztecs and stuff. That's the Serpent Folk. So like time in history, real world, and like Pathfinder lore that I'd love to explore deeper into. So yeah, by all means, Serpent Folk.
Yeah, they're a really strong choice.
As I was saying, serpent folks, if you give them class levels, they can make fantastic villains, especially cult leaders, especially if they're trying to bring the end times for their deity to come back, such as a serpent god.
If you're trying to get a Conan style vibe, especially if you've read the books or listened to the books on audiobook, you definitely throwing in Nagaji, Serpent Folk, and Vishkanyas, that's the way to go. And the Serpent Folk especially, because they very much have that feeling of those Robert E. Howard books, not just the we'll say all the Hyborian books, because that includes Krull. So all the Hyborian books.
Definitely serpent folks, if you use them right, they are quite intelligent, so they could use the heroes or the good guys or the heroes of the story to help them out, and the heroes do not know they're helping a serpent folk out due to all the ability they have, and being quite intelligent, sociable, and knowing languages, they could take any form that they want. And just looking at the bestiary entry, they can live up to 500 years, so they could be a member of a certain society for a long time, and people would believe they've been there for a long time.
Yep. I'm trying to think.
So if something go wrong, the serpent folk could say the heroes did something wrong, and they would have the blame on them potentially. So a lot of ways to use a serpent folk.
Is it Bestiary 6? I thought Bestiary 6 had serpent folk available as a PC race.
They do not.
Must have been something else. But
Bestiary 2 have the degenerates.
6 had reptoids as player rate.
Reptoids, that's what I was thinking about. Reptoids.
Yeah, reptoids would make a good servitor race to a serpent folk.
Yep. All right, so serpent folk, definitely a nice choice. And once you start hitting like CRs 3 and 4, you start hitting into those creatures that have PC level stuff going on with their statistics. So, for me, to finish up our highlights, our specific highlights, you got to give the shout out to the Mimic, because I love Mimics, and I'm gonna upload one of our previous sessions at some point for the 9 guilds area, that the first one that we did in there, and it had a setup of mimics in a hallway that just was piece de resistance on how the PCs and my players especially handled it and were affected by it. But that will come later. The one that I want to highlight is actually one that I thought, wow, that's pretty strong, and that's the Periton. The Periton is this creature has a stag's body, a hawk's wings and talons, and the head of a slavering wolf, with a rack of sharp antlers on its brow. And this thing can get pretty nasty pretty quick. It's a flying creature. It's got DR5 with magic over magic, which is not a big deal at CR4 because people are going to have magic weapons by now. But it has flyby attack, improved initiative, and weapon focus gore. Now its gore attack it crits on a 18 to 20, and its horrific critical feat, or its horrific critical ability, the Perion's gore attack threatens at a critical range on an 18 to 20. If the Periton kills a humanoid foe with a critical hit, now it's killed them, it can tear out the victim's heart with its wolf teeth as a free action. So as a free action, that creature that has been killed, which, I mean, we're talking about a creature that's doing 1d6 plus 3 and an 18 to 20 critical range. So it might very well hit you with flyby attack and crit. And any creature that witnesses this savage event must make a DC 13 Fortitude save or be shaken for 1 round. This is a mind-affecting effect. I thought that was just brutal, the way that it's described. So this thing gores you, rips your heart out, so resurrection is slightly harder, at least in the way I would rule it. And man, that's pretty harsh. Now the DC 13 Fortitude save isn't, but that can be mitigated. The Shadow Mark is a free action also, and it does a ranged touch by flying over a humanoid target. So it does a ranged touch, and it can do it at 300 feet as its maximum range. So it's flying 300 feet above the party, and it marks one. If the Perion hits, its shadow transforms to a match the shadow of the creature struck. Once the Periton has established this link, it gains a +2 morale bonus on attack rolls and damage rolls made against the target. And every time the Periton hits that target with an attack, the creature must make a DC 13 will save or become frightened for 1 round. So every time this thing does a flyby attack on that creature, so it swoops down, flyby attack, and goes back up to like 300 feet, or however, it wouldn't go up 300 feet, but it goes up, and it's possibly critting on an 18 to 20, so it's got like a 15% chance to crit. And you have to make a DC 13 will save every time. So the more you have to do it, the more problematic it starts to get. That could be a lot of fun for a GM to play with. So that's the one that I picked. Alright. If there's no remarks about those, we can quickly mention the ones that we want to make sure to encourage people to use from CR2, 3, and 4. So, any specific, hey guys, pay attention to this monsters on CR2?
I really like just a quick mention for the axe beak. If you aren't allowed flying creatures as mounts, axe beak is an amazing mount.
And say that they're all yellow in your universe.
No, I don't want copyright claims.
No, they need to be like a dark purple color so they can fly. Come on.
Oh.
And Mudmen. I also just kind of like the idea of them just suffocating the crap out of people in the middle of a big sinkhole.
Yeah. Definitely something that would be tough. I liked, we already did the rattling, the Juju, pardon. The Juju zombie is fun, too. It gives that variation on the zombie, not staggered, and it gets a bit of magic going on with that zombie. Very, very voodoo-y when you get around to it. Voodoo and hoodoo type feeling. If you're looking for a race, like you've got races for for chimps and apes, like the Oranga, the one you did a
Orang Pendek.
Yeah, the Orang.
They're in Pendek, Indonesian Sasquatch.
Yeah, they kind of have a counterpart that's baboonish if you go with the Chiraka and
Charaka from the Wongi Expanse.
Yeah, but now doesn't that Mwangi have an apostrophe? I think it does, which means it's.
No, it does not. It's all one word.
Okay, if it did, it would be Mwangi, but if it doesn't, then it's Mwangi. But yes, and they would be really fun to use if you're wanting to, especially if you want to have a Plains of Africa type feel to your game. But you want to have some primates, but you want them to fit with that African Sahara desert type of thing. Not Sahara, grasslands. And, flavor some quadrupedal half-lion people, like sphinxes. Use some sphinxes as you're roaming across the desert, roaming across the grasslands type thing, hunting the water buffalo. Could be very fun.
Yeah. It's super fun when a bunch of sentient apes come and grab you and take you back to the sentient ape city where the bigger sentient ape makes you dance in a cage until he kills you and then forcibly reincarnates you as a sentient ape to go and get other people, and thus is the cycle of the Wongi Expanse.
There you go. And some of those sentient apes have big wings and are they're gorillas with big wings. I mean...
The Derhii?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't they have, like, bat wings?
I think some of them got feathered wings, some of them got bat wings, some of them got. It's just, yeah. Not something you'd want to see going on your stroll. And then the choker, I wanted to mention on this CR. The choker and the blink dog, those are fun.
The old blink dogs.
So those are the ones I've got for CR. Anybody else got something for CR2?
For CR2, the only honorable mention I really want to make is the Fakwa. Mostly because I think they're cool. I think they're a super flavorful thematic critter to throw in a subterranean adventure or on a character who's from a place that's underground, like a dwarf or something like that. Because they mention in their ecology entries in certain places that they're sometimes taken as familiars.
Oh. Well, there you go. That's a pretty strong familiar.
Well, there's CR2. That's where most
I
of
guess
the
for me,
improved familiar list comes from is CR2. Oh, you're real robotic, bud.
Yeah.
I think we're about to lose you.
I would also say
Wow.
Oh dear.
Oh wow.
Someone has cast the slow spell on.
Someone cast stabilize.
Internet.
Well, obviously not stronger than us. Yes, no?
No, I got none of
Kind
that.
of. Oh, they're gone.
They're gone. Okay. Joe.
Oh, they're back.
Oh, there he is.
So everything you just said, Tommy, repeat it. Because we got none of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
I
had
see
they're strong.
Are we saying me repeat it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whichever one of you was talking.
Okay, so I was going to say,
'Cause
for
your video cut out,
CR2,
Shit.
It continues. Goodness. Okay.
I guess we'll move on.
Okay, Joe. Donald, do you guys have anything for CR2?
CR2, like I just said, the axe beak and
that roll is
Budman.
really powerful. I've never used it on, basic.
Is he not getting us either?
I don't know.
I don't think
it
he's
is.
receiving us. This is Major Tom. It is.
Ground
It's Major
control. I'm stepping through the door.
They're like coming in all at once. Like Sarah sent a bunch of messages. Like, yes, I am. We can hear you. Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Donald, did you have any honorable mentions for this CR level?
Donald, you're muted.
Oh, he's having mic issues.
Two participants down.
We need to end up soon anyway. So if they can get things straightened out, we'll come back.
All right.
Are we straightened out now?
A little straightened.
Oh, yeah?
We can try it.
We're good? We're good?
Yeah, a little bit.
Testing. One. Okay, so Crocodile because Death Roll. That's all I want to say. Death Roll is really powerful. Never used it on a CR2. I've used it on it's called a Hikoshu, I think, at CR15. It's a big old angry crocodile monster that I used in Osirion once. And I think it's actually in the Osirion splat book is where this monster appears. But Death Roll to a party that's not aware of what it does or how powerful it is it literally just shreds the PCs if you catch them underwater.
Yeah, and it gets a +11. So.
Yeah, that's a lot of hit points, especially if you're not playing max hit points. Monsters like this become, I guess everybody does, but specifically somebody that is in one shot, I'm going to do a butt ton of damage, become more powerful if you're not on max hit points. If you're God forbid the party's rolling and they all rolled at this point, yeah, you're going to eat them for breakfast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Crocodile knocks him prone, which makes it easier for them to grapple it too. For him to be grappled, yeah.
Mm.
Definitely some
Aquatic encounter.
All right.
All right, is that all of CR2? Because I don't think Donald has managed to fix his microphone yet.
So we'll move to CR3. All the elementals happen here. All the mephits happen here. And the mephits are worth mentioning because, again, they can become... I think they can become familiars.
Yeah, they can.
Okay.
I think Pseudo Dragon falls here too, doesn't it?
In CR3? S?
Donald wanted to mention Iron Cobra CR2. So it's pretty... It's construct. It's going to have those abilities. And it's going to have... Where do we go? Cobra... Is that it? Yeah. It's going to have those abilities.
Speaking of snake-shaped construct, I think the Lesser Necrophidius also falls into CR2.
Yeah. But if you're going to use a Necrophidius, I think you should just wait until CR3 and use the actual Necrophidius. Because then you get to have the full Necrophidius. I mean, you could go full. What was it? What was that path to Gravelord Nito called?
The Giant's Tomb?
Yeah, you could go full Giant's Tomb, have them dungeon delve into there. They're going against, what were those hound dog things? They're going against the Necrophidius. Oh, you could just rack up some things like that. Let me see. On CR3, I wanted to make sure to mention the adherer, because that can be really fun, especially if you make it into one of the floor adherers. The Keratoidy.
The Cariated Golem.
Because that's another plant monster that can
the
be really
Cariated
nice.
Column?
And no,
You mean construct.
yeah, there's that one, but I'm talking about the, maybe it's Ceratoidy.
I see it.
Yeah, it is a
aquatic monstrous humanoid.
No, yeah. This flabby fish-like humanoid has a wide mouth, bulging eyes, and dangling luminescent flesh to lure the deep predator. And it gets, because it's two creatures in one, so you can't affect it with mind affecting things, and it's got a lot of fun stuff. And they can go several hours under the water without having to come up for breath. So they just pull you under and wait till you get tender type thing. Got a lure that can get you fascinated. Pretty nice. Let me see, we mentioned the donkey. The Disenchanter can be fun. That little elephant trunked thing that sucks the magic out of your items. I mean, if your GM doesn't like you or felt that he give you too many magic items, you just randomly...
Just spam a Disenchanter real quick.
Yeah.
Same with the Rust monsters, too. They fall in CR3, don't they?
Yeah. They're worth mentioning.
Don't use those on your party.
That bad, huh?
Yeah, we ran into I just did a dungeon a couple weeks ago that was full of them.
Yeah. I have never used
Which,
those.
I mean, it wasn't terrible, because I was playing with a rogue who was primarily covered in leather, and a druid, and a wizard, and I was the only fighter.
Oh, no.
Well, that can be problematic. But
Yeah, it can.
But I could actually see rust monsters being used as an environmental, not a pest, but something that certain druids would welcome in their temple, because they're not supposed to use metal anyway. And if they don't like the use of metal, it's only understandable that they would then have rust monsters in their area. But yeah, that could get bad for the PCs.
No, the rust monsters wouldn't want to stay there anyways because they wouldn't have anything to eat.
True. Gelatinous Cube comes under the CR3. Definitely worth a mention.
It prevents...
Going Robo again.
Yeah.
It prevents the what?
Prevents the
Yeah.
They just... Damn it. It's the eh.
So, gelatinous cube is a great one, especially if you put it at the bottom of a well or something like that, or you have the PCs look down into a hole and there's like this movement. It's like water, you know? And then at the bottom of the water, there's these rings and stuff, like someone's thrown in making wishes, coins and stuff like that. Like, oh, we can go down and get those gold coins. I think I even see a platinum piece down there. All right, lower me down, guys. They lower him down directly into a gelatinous cube, and he gets sucked up in it. And he's like, guys, get it real. So yeah, I like that one.
Donald also wants to spotlight the Sandman and the Ogre from CR3.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see the Necrocraft here. I know vaguely what it is, but I think that's a multi-CR thing.
Ah, okay.
I think he means Necrophidius, maybe?
He might.
Possible?
If he can't hear us, he might mean that. Oh, he's listing it. Copy link address. Paste. That's not the correct address. Alright.
Thick muscle and jutting bone from multiple corpses fused together form a winged human-like predator. Oh, okay. Yeah, it is. It is a multiple, like, CR thing, but the base creature is a CR3.
Ah, gotcha.
Okay, can you hear? Oh, I figured what the issue was. I was having.
There you are.
I was having the same
He
issue.
did it.
Same issue as Tommy had.
Oh.
Yeah, this is like what is it called?
Yeah, the Necrocraft. If you look down the page, you get to customize it a bit based upon what hit die it have. So you need something that have more armor. Use the points up to make one much more sturdier than the others.
Right.
This reminds me of a much, much, much higher CR monster that I cannot think of the name of now.
Well, we'll
Warsworn?
get there.
Might have been a Warsworn.
Kind of reminds me of Warsworn.
Um,
I really like those guys, but I really like Quicklings.
yeah.
Just want to point those guys out.
Quicklings.
Quicklings are supposed to be really powerful.
They zing back and forth. They're hard to hit. They have. I think they have
Mhm.
run. They have attack on the run or whatever.
When they're
it's
running, they're invisible.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
think
they-
they can attack when they're running.
They fight with a rapier that looks like a sewing needle.
Yeah.
A Quickling is invisible when motionless. It loses its invisibility and remains visible for one round in any round in which it take an action other than a free action. And there's several free actions you can take. Quickling is slow susceptible though. But what person is going to be casting slow on this? Is going to be preparing slow on a regular basis, unless
Yeah.
you're a specifically
I mean-
easy buffer.
If you're, generally buff spells are better than debuff spells because you don't have to contend with save DCs. But
That's
Right.
true.
Which would-
Also, probably don't have slow in the first place.
yeah,
Is slow
there could
like
be like
a
4 of them. You might be level 6.
is slow like a level 5 wizard spell? I know haste is like a level 3
It's
wizard.
a third level. It's a third level spell. It's just the antithesis of haste.
so
Is that what I saw too? You don't get such spells until like level 5 wizard.
Yeah.
Right.
so you don't even have that at CR when you're at CR3 thing. So
Mhm.
that is definitely one
Scrolls?
to throw out there. They're moss trolls. The trolls start here, and then the troll hounds and stuff like that. Quickling, we did fungal crawlers can be fun, and then the Erdofhan are very helpful when you're running certain types of campaign, especially since they got psychic stuff going on with them. And then Spring Heel Jack, we were talking about before we started. He has a breath weapon and a bunch of stuff going on with him, so he could be fun to throw in there too.
I don't know whether or not this is a not a blooper, but a misprint on them. But for some reason, it says that the Quickling gets plus 50 to its jump on acrobatics.
Plus 50.
Wow.
Um,
Let me look at that
Ooh.
real quick.
I'm gonna look at it in my app and see if it's
Which monster is
yeah.
this?
the
a
Quickling,
Quickling.
plus 50 jump.
It says
Yeah,
plus
acrobatics
50.
plus 14 plus 50 jump.
Well, it may.
Well, the
what-
Spring-Heeled Jack just gets a plus like 24 when he jumps.
It's a C. It's a
Yeah,
bestiary
that's definitely
too.
plus 50.
It's in bestiary
Breaks
too.
out bestiary too.
Yep, got it.
Plus 16 actually.
Wow, a plus 50.
He's got it.
Quickling.
I
The
mean,
moon-
the
you guys
SR2
need a
is
rocket to
usually
get to the
really
moon?
good about
It is officially
fixing
it
typos.
is a plus 50 jump. It is. It's not a typo.
Wow, that's
crazy.
very high for that CR.
Well, so he'd
So-
spend 3 turns in the air in that jump.
Let's hope he's got Featherfall coming down. I mean, is that a thing? I need to look. You jump that high.
I don't-
It's Quickling space.
Lateral
program.
jumps, you do 1/4 your lateral distance vertically. So he'd be 20 feet in the air on a
that's-
60-foot jump.
That's something. But yeah, I mean,
Or no,
quick
that'd
things.
be less than that. You'd be 15 feet in the air.
Can you not use acrobatics? Can you not use acrobatics to break your fall?
You can. But
You can't break like the entire fall. Jump off a skyscraper, do a backflip, you're good.
Like the fucking
it's just in Borderlands.
let's
Yeah.
Give this creature at will featherfall and that jump modifier.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Pretty much
If you-
have yourself a jumping creature.
if you had
Yeah, I've played characters like that.
if you had a platformed type of setup going on, where you had to jump from platform to platform, this thing would wreak havoc. It would be on one platform, jump over to your platform, attack you, and then jump over to the other platform. So that, because a plus 50 jump, it can just take its passive on that. It can just take its passive plus 50 to jump from one platform to another.
Yeah.
A plus of 50, you don't get those bonuses until you get into like CR20 plus creatures that have that.
Yeah, this is the first time. I think this is the first time you get to the CR to a CR where you have a plus 50 of something.
Yeah, that's nuts.
I think that's because they were like, we should give it a fly speed, and someone else was like, nah, this CR2 monster shouldn't have a fly speed. They're like, why don't we just make it really good at jumping? It's good at flying, but only in a straight line.
Yeah.
Then they went back on that. And they're like, let's put in a Dimorphodon, and for some reason give it a poison attack. It's CR1.
Yeah.
I
Why
want to
not?
talk about the Assassin Vine really quick.
Oh yeah.
It's like another monster that's really nasty if you have players that like to wander off on their own.
Sarah.
Um,
All my players.
Because Assassin Vines have like a resting DC of 20 to spot them through the wood, like if they're just holding still in the woods. And if you don't see them, they'll snag you and tangle you and drag you up into a tree.
Hmm. Yeah.
I think I don't know how this would work, but I think it might be kind of gnarly to put a bunch of Assassin Vines in a Hangman's tree,
Oh,
which is another monster. I don't know what CR it is, but
That would be.
you may or may
horrible.
not be familiar with a Hangman's tree, which is like a walking tree full of nooses that move on their own.
Yeah.
I could see that being a counter potentially in a jungle-ish area.
Hmm.
One monster that is pretty gnarly if you use all of its abilities properly, it is the Mind Slaver. Mind Slaver mode.
Mhm.
Two abilities that make it quite potent just by itself, being a plant creature that can't move all that much. It have the dominate a person spell, which is like a level 6 or 7 spell, and then if there's enough damage done to wisdom through the wisdom drain from the spore attack, your player character pretty much obeys the plan pretty much.
Yeah, and this
Also,
is
if your wyvern decides to bite it, that's also bad. Just putting that out there.
Yeah.
So this creature, you will not encounter it outside of its natural environment pretty much, but if you're in his natural environment, it's pretty bad, and it have fast hitting too.
yeah.
And the Mindslaver
And-
mold's natural habitat is wherever like it has decided to take folks. Joe used those in an encounter once, and it was rough. I don't think it was the Mindslaver molds that were holding this up specifically compared to like what the Mindslaver mold had mind-slaved, but like we were all bottlenecked. It was real bad. And I was on a wyvern at the time, like, I'm gonna bite it, and Joe let me have the like, are you sure, Tommy? But even then, like 4 sessions after that, I'm like not trusting anything I see. Not like, this is a Mindslaver mold. No, don't do it. Just forever and ever and ever and ever.
Yeah. And Mindslayer modes are not slouches on their intelligence. They got a 14 intelligence. That's well above average. So
Smart plant.
yeah, and that's rare.
Give them class levels.
Yeah, it's rare to get them. Have them infest, covertly infest one of the sleeping PCs.
So if that's all the honorable mentions we have for CR3,
I have a couple.
okay.
First,
Make it quick.
I'll make it quick. I won't make it real fast. Okay, so Medusas and Cockatrices because petrification is rough, and Drowned Nobles because somebody's going to hear this and inevitably get super mad about it.
Yeah, Drowned Nobles. Yeah. Okay, that's all CR3. Let's finish up CR4 mentions.
Okay. I was going to segue from Mindslaver molds into one of my CR4 honorable mentions, which is the Mycodoid, which look almost exactly like the Dark Moon Forest mushroom people from the first Dark Souls game.
Yep.
And they do a very similar thing where they spores into your face, and if you take enough ability damage, you are affected by a gas, and you seek out the closest myconoid colony to offer yourself up for infestation.
That is pretty grim. If we remind me from 3.5, the Mind Flayers, they had some servants that are
Void minds,
infect-
that's what they're called. Void minded.
Yeah, Mind Flayers using the Mind Bug Servant to infect the populace to have humanoids come to them.
This is also the level where you get your upgraded chocobos. I mean, the Terror Bird speaks.
Yeah, the Gastornis. I don't know. The Gastornis is anywhere near exciting for me as the Attic Whisperer. This is my honorable mention.
Yes, I've used those. They're nice.
Yeah, and then we got to keep them pets.
Hey,
They
you
shut
guys are
down
undead
bards.
users.
They're like the Pugwampy of the CR4, in my opinion. They shut down bards. They can make people fatigued, so they can deal with fighters, but they're really good against the spellcasters because they can shut down your ability to speak.
Yeah.
And so that means that you can't, unless you have Silent Spell at level. This is probably a difficult CR3 encounter.
Which you probably don't.
Yeah, and you probably don't. I know. I was like Silent Spell. Like I gave that to a character at a really high level because it's like I don't know what to take. Like I'm a druid wizard gestalt character. I'll give him I'll give him Silent Spell, and yeah, it shuts him down real bad.
And another monster which I put the link in the chat. Dark Stalker. If you use its natural environment, dark places, and use the darkness to hide the creature, it gets to do a lot of damage. Besides just from the poison, the two swords attack, and then the additional sneak attack. This Dark Stalker is pretty much effectively a rogue, and if you use the deeper darkness, well, pretty good. Fog cloud. It can seriously mess up casters if they go up against them.
Yeah.
I find the Arania to be an interesting monster as well, because they're not necessarily evil. They're a neutral shape changer, so they could be a good quest giver for a group, because they have change shape that they can use, and they're a nice one to have your PCs know for a little while, and then slowly have them suspect that he's not what he is, and then show them eventually him shifted into his arachnid form. Because they're not evil, they're completely neutral, but they're pretty neat, pretty good. And
yeah, but spiders are scary, and
yeah,
spiders, especially intelligent ones, they are terrifying. Especially if the spider like to play with their meal and lead them to its nest.
So fun for bad guys and fun for non-bad guys.
I have one more honorable mention, but I will go very last because I only have this as an honorable mention because it's dumb.
Okay. Well, the Camoset.
That bad, huh?
The Camoset is also a neat monster. It's a brain eater. It's like a big beast, kind of bear ape thing, but it eats brains. And if it eats certain types of brains, you get certain benefits. If it tries to eat an undead brain, it does 1d4 points of damage and is sickened to the creature. However, if it eats a monstrous humanoid, it regains a number of hit points equal to 1d4 times the victim's hit dice, and is affected by the spell Rage, basically. So a lot of different things can happen based upon what it does, based upon what it eats. So if you've got one plaguing an arcane spellcaster school, it's going to have a number of regain a number of hit points every time it does that, equal to 1d4 times the victim's hit dice, and gains a spell resistance of 15. It doesn't say that it goes away. It says it gets it for a number of minutes, 5 times the hit dice. So it gets a jump with its 24 strength on this really strong spellcaster, and all of a sudden this thing has at spell resistance 15 for however long that hit dice of that spellcaster was. So that can be fun.
This is another honorable mention. Certain demons and outsiders at CR4 get to have pretty useful spell resistance as well.
Yeah.
It seems to start coming in at 3 and 4 with good spell resistances anyway. Flail.
Yeah, a lot of DR's immunities, spell resistance come in between CR2 to 4-ish.
And spell resistance can be really important. Like, if you have a party, or you're going to GM for a party, and like all of them are going to play like wizards and sorcerers and bards. Oh my! Spell resistance is going to get you farther than the armor classes if they're just going to be spamming magic missiles or like hold person, sleep, and coup de grace, stuff like that. So like knowing what monsters have that at this low CR is really important. It's nothing if I'm going to just magic missile.
Tommy, I'm currently GMing a high-level game and having a lot of the monsters that have pretty good spell resistance to beat definitely extend the boss's life a bit, especially with a
for
caster
sure.
in the party. It's only taken an actual 1 or less than 10 to beat most of the boss's SR.
Yeah,
Or
boss monsters aren't really boss monsters. I feel like around like CR 10, 11, 12, 13, the party just gets to run away as far as CR goes if they know how to build, but that's an entirely different conversation for a couple weeks from now.
yeah, it's true. Spell resistance is quite nasty for people who are not prepared for that creature.
Mm-hmm.
So, satyrs are also here, poltergeist, pixies, like you mentioned, and pixies and satyrs together.
Pixies are really good.
Yeah, pixies and satyrs together.
Mhm.
If you're going for a dark type thing like with the dark stalker, you could throw in a shay. If you don't want to have undead shadows going around, you could have a shay. The carrion golem, if you want to have a very Frankenstein type vibe going on in your game, you could do that. And as far as the Volna Daemon is very thematic. It's that one that looks like a little kid. It's got that mouth on its throat instead of up here. So it's like its head comes back.
Oh yeah, the Pez monster.
Yeah.
Mm.
Those are creepy. I like the creepy ones.
Adam, another honorary for CR2, it would be the Kako Daemon. It's for lore-wise, creatures that actually use them generally use Kako Demons to actually collect creature souls as a form of currency. And if you use the Book of the Damned rules, when it came to using souls as a form of currency, that's one way to use Kako Demons pretty effectively.
There you go.
I should also probably note at CR4 for a couple of honorable mentions, they're not like, dire boars are pretty strong, am I right, Kane?
Hmm.
And also, it was my understanding spell resistance, and maybe that's from like 3-5 or maybe a greater Barcast has spell resistance, but both of those guys, like, I think dire boars have some kind of like frenzy thing. Maybe I'm thinking I'm thinking the like were-boars, but this is where we start seeing like dire animals. Dire wolverines are essentially little tiny, cute little barbarians.
Yeah, dire badgers are nasty.
Yeah.
Dire direwolves, they're pretty bad, especially in 5th edition. If you use them at the lower levels.
Mm.
And a final, the only one I have left to mention is the Slithering Tracker, because there's lots of oozes that we've encountered thus far, but the Slithering Tracker is an intelligent ooze that will sneak up on you in the Underdark and wait till you fall asleep or someone's not watching, and it's transparent, so it's not easy to see, and it paralyzes you and then eats you.
Well,
And it's a small creature. All right. That's everything I have for CR4. How's everybody else?
yeah, me too.
Okay.
I'm good.
This is another note. CR4, you get to see the dragons. These would be the infant dragons at this point.
Yeah, there were some in CR. There are wormlings up until this point, but this is when you get your first young dragon, I think.
Yeah.
Very young.
It would be
Like a young white dragon.
it would
I
be
think.
very young. I think it's like white dragon CR4.
Very young white dragon, a very young primal dragon is what it's showing.
Mhm. And we can't not mention the dragons in something like this because they're like, I mean, that's half the game, right?
It's in the name and stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
They used the creature in the name.
But I mean, it also has 5 attacks, a weapon. It's a walking tank essentially.
Yeah, but those
Dragons
attacks only
are-
work in certain arcs. You have to remember that.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I'm now remembering in 3.5 when you got bigger monsters, you had like space this, reach that, face this.
All right. Well, everyone, I think we've had a long enough talk. It is going about 2 hours and 10 minutes on my timer. So we've
All
talked.
right, I got my last one. I got my last one left.
All right.
It's the last one. It's just real dumb. If you've played Dungeons and Dragons for a long time, you're definitely going to recognize this when I mention it to you. It's the flail snail.
Oh God.
Has anyone ever fought a flail snail?
I have not. I know that monster got remade in like Iconic Monsters Revisited or something like that.
They're awful if you're in a caster-heavy party, but they're also just the dumbest thing you've ever seen. Imagine a 2,000-pound snail with 4 eye stalks, and each eye stalk ends in a large, bony club. That's a flail snail. That's the flail part attached to the snail part. And it has a large, multicolored, like, shiny opalescent shell with special minerals in it that can deflect magic. It's just a huge pain in the ass, and it looks absolutely ridiculous. And I think I've never seen anyone use it for that specific reason.
Because it's just too dorky. It's too dorky
Yeah.
for the dorky game.
But it is a CR monster that gets 4 slam attacks around, and it has a climb speed, obviously, and it doesn't risk falling off of things because it's a snail. It's got blind sense and tremor sense and warp magic, and it can go inside its shell to get a huge bonus to its natural armor. And it's just a big, dumb, awful pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Note to self: things to use with the party in future games. Flails.
Adam, and another joke monster that you could use. It is a fluff from D&D 3.5.
Well, the
I think
flumps are
Pathfinder has that
actually
too.
in CR1 creature in Pathfinder 2. So I know
Which book is
because
it from?
it's from CR. It's from book 1, I think. Bestiary 1. CR. It's
think
a
that's right,
CR1
yeah.
creature. But I know because our Patreon first level of $1 per month is the Flump level. If you want to upgrade to the Elemental or perhaps the Giant level, which we have one of our Giants with us today, then you can visit on Patreon. And you can also visit Black Dragon Gaming on Patreon as well. So there's
Yeah.
that. Yeah. All right. I think it's time for us to sign off. We've had a 2 hour and basically 15-minute chat, which will eventually have to be
Yeah.
uploaded. Which, the longer the video, the longer the upload time. So, anyway, does Black Dragon Gaming have anything before we sign off?
I think we've covered pretty much everything. Thanks again for having my friends and me come hang out with you guys. It's always a pleasure. It's always super fun to not edit my videos and sit here and talk about like dumb nerd stuff, essentially. I definitely look forward to this every week, and I've said it a million times. Here's the millionth and first, I guess. Like, I didn't expect to make friends when I decided I was going to become a content creator on YouTube, but I'm super, I'm super blessed that I was able to find friends on the internet that are into my stuff, and I really appreciate you guys and you, essentially. I'm going to miss Kazaha, I'll say that.
Well, we were talking about that before, and Kazaha probably would have ended up trying to kill Lucia eventually. So,
So we have plans for Lucia. We do.
Uh-oh.
Well,
Definitely.
it is an enable result end result. knowing personality conflicts.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's played the N64 game for which that campaign is named after knows what happens if you're a bad person at the end of that campaign. So it's probably going to be something similar.
Ooh, foreshadowing. All right.
Yeah.
All right,
Bad guys in
everyone.
my games get medals.
Yeah, they do.
Play a bad
And they
guy.
get really mad when Buster don't get anywhere.
I'm not
If you
supposed
want to-
though.
If you want to play an evil character, have Sarah as your DM. She'll give you medals.
There
Okay.
you go. Good try.
Participation medals.
Oh, those are the best kind.
If you play a bad guy in my game, you get special plot.
Wait, getting participation medals. That is medal badge saying I defeat
Thing.
Sir and Sir Knight badge.
Yeah.
It was more like, yeah. Go ahead, Adam. Take it away.
It's time to sign off.
Let's get out of here.
It's time to sign off. We're at 2
It
hours,
is,
15
yeah.
minutes, and 38 seconds. Thank you, everyone, for coming. If you want to find out more about us, you can go to our Facebook, our YouTube, our Twitter, our actual website, which is inofplanarcrossroads.com, where we also upload all of our videos just to make sure that people can have both ways if they want to. Check out our Patreon and check out our Twitch if you would like to as well. We usually try to broadcast our live videos over there as well. Thank you very much. And I'm Adam L. Spain with the Inn of Planar Crossroads, also known as the Procurer. Have a great day. God bless and enjoy. Say goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
You're loud.
You're dumb.
You're dumb.